Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I'd like to say a big thank you to Craig Stewart for sending in these cool pictures of his Valhalla 597th in action against the vile forces of chaos. I have to say, Craig, really like these pictures. I like the paint scheme you've got on the Valkyries, and on that camo scheme in the battles looks pretty cool as well. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they'd like me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. And without further ado, let's crack on with today's video, which is going to be a quick tip tactic video. And it's going to be very short. We're just going to be taking a look at the Saiyans special rule Stormtroopers. Now, I've done lots of Saiyan videos on this channel. I've done a fair few. I always like to do one every now and then, just to keep my finger on the pulse and to make sure that I'm keeping sort of the tactics up to date. Now, my thinking with Saiyans has always been hit hard, hit fast, don't let the enemy recover, get in amongst them and smash them. And because of that, my tactics in the past have generally lent towards things like deep striking rapid fire plasma, using Taurox Primes to drive up close to the enemy, jumping out in rapid fire range and then laying down 40 hot shot lasgun shots of first rank fire, second rank fire into the enemy. But there is, but Saiyans do require some long range fire support as well. Okay, and the thing is that traditionally, what an Imperial Guard player would do is they would add in things like Leman Russes and Basilisks. They'd have like maybe a spearhead detachment that they would use to get some Leman Russes or some other heavy firepower into their army, which could provide the fire support for the Saiyans. Now, that's all well and good if you're willing to do that, but what if you are a pure Saiyan player, or what if you are considering going pure Saiyans? Well, you have to be able to add that long range fire support into your army, and naturally that is going to lead you down looking at your Taurox Primes, because that's the only vehicle that you get access to. Now, there are, people have spoken to me in the past about using command squads with 4 hotshot volley guns and using them as a long range fire support unit, but they're only long range in terms of Saiyans, which is 24 inches. But 24 inches isn't really long enough range for a fire support team, and to be honest, you want to be using your 3 command squads to be deep striking plasma in. And therefore, if you want to do long range infantry fire support, you're looking at taking 10-man Saiyan squads with 4 hotshot volley guns. But then they're susceptible to morale, and it just starts falling apart and not working. So naturally, you start looking towards your vehicles. Now, you could take Valkyries, but again, typically your Valkyries are going to be used as a delivery system. Okay. You want, especially with the new Tempestus Saiyan drop force from Vigilus, which is a video I will be doing at some point. You definitely, you want to use those Valkyries are going to be on the move. So, what can you do? What can you do? Well, you go look at your Taurox Primes. Now, I have traditionally always been a advocate of the Dakar Prime, which is where you take your hotshot volley guns on the side, you take your Taurox Gatling on top, and you pump out, put a Storm Bolter on there and you pump out 30 shots at 24-inch range. That's great, but again, that's 24-inch range, and if you want to start taking advantage of Stormtrooper rule, you've got to start getting into 12-inch range, which means you then could potentially get tied up and locked up in close combat. Now, one of my dear and closest friends has recently got into 40k, and he has gone for pure Saiyans. Absolutely amazing. He's doing a really good job with the army, really cool paint scheme, and he's got loads of Dakar Primes. He's got 5 or 6 Dakar Primes that he's got his hands on, and They work really, really well, but we've had a couple of games now. He's still obviously learning, but one of the games, and this is sort of what made me want to, sort of re-look at the Taurox Prime. One of the games we had was against Elder and Dark Elder combined, and our Tauroxes, because it was 2v2, Tauroxes got tied up pretty quickly in combat, and it made me realise Saiyans can struggle with screening. You think about it, Saiyans can struggle with screening. And those expensive Taurox Primes, if you move them towards the enemy, they're going to get locked up pretty quickly. And then what do? So you have to be able, if you're going pure Saiyans, how do you add in some long-range firepower that's not going to, that is pure Saiyan? And you look at Taurox Prime, and then you go, right, well, I've got other options. I've got the missile launcher, and I've got the autocannons, and I've got the Taurox battle cannon. Now, I understand the missile launcher has come down in price. I personally still think it's a lot of points to pay for essentially 2 crack missiles. I know some people prefer them, but personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Taurox missile launcher. I mean, it's okay. It can do a job, but personally, if you look at the stats for it, it's 30 points, so it's the price of 2 missile launchers, and you get 2 missiles from, which is fine, but it's expensive. Now, interestingly, I've started to warm towards the Taurox battle cannon. Okay, now why? Why is that? Well, firstly, it's the cheapest option now. Okay, it's only 18 points for Taurox battle cannon, and what it gets you is 48-inch range, heavy D6, strength 7, AP -1, D3 damage. Now that D3 damage is interesting because it's an average of 2, but it could be, you could easily get that on a 3. Now, then you start thinking about things like, well, then if you add the autocannons on the side as well, you're looking at essentially D6 plus 4 autocannon shots from 1 unit. Okay, which isn't too bad, considering that unit, if I add all the points together correctly here now, that's 118 points, 120 points. You can add a heavy stubber onto a Taurox Prime now, I believe. Yep, you can have a heavy stubber on. So for 120 points, you can get yourself a little fire support unit that's got D6 plus 4 autocannon shots, and you've got your 3 heavy stubber shots as well. But here's the kicker, right? Why would you take this? Well, 1, you're hitting on 3s. Because the Taurox Prime. Now you're going to be hitting on 3s the majority of the time because you've got a 48-inch range. You no longer need to move into range to get close, to use your guns, because you've got the long range firepower. It's durable because you've got a 3+ save. Now, unlike things like a Lever and Rust, which can be difficult to get cover with, Taurox Primes are a very small vehicle. Smallest guard vehicle you can get outside the Sentinel, as far as I'm aware. Smaller than a Chimera chassis. Means you can actually cram these things into cover relatively easily. Okay. And they've got punch. You've got strength 7. You've got AP -1. You've got an average of 2 damage per shot. I mean, you're looking at about 8 shots with this thing each time you shoot it. Okay? Hitting on 3s. And this is where it starts getting interesting, because if you read the Stormtrooper special rule, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it says when you're in half range, any 6s you get to hit, you get to shoot again. Now normally that's like a 12-inch range. On this Punchy Prime, it's a 24-inch range. You're going to be within 24-inch range a lot of the time. Suddenly, This thing is getting D6 plus 4 shots, and every time you roll a 6, you get an extra shot. Now, if you're even moderately lucky, you're going to be getting 1, 2 extra shots every time you fire this thing, and suddenly this thing is looking like D6 plus 6 autocannon shots hitting on 3s. Could be more, could be less, but you could easily get D6 plus 6. And that's starting to look pretty tasty. But if we compare that to the Armiger, which gets 4d3, an Armiger gets 4d3 shots, right? That's an average of 8 shots from the Armiger, right? This, which costs 175 points. This Punchy Prime has an average of 8 shots as well, autocannon shots. Because let's say you get, your D6, you get 3, and then on you get 1, that's 3 plus 4 shots is 7 shots, so you should get 1 6, that becomes 8 shots. Suddenly this thing is 120 points, it's putting out the same amount of Dakka as an Armiger Knight, but it's 120 points. And you can tuck this thing into cover, which you can't do with an Armiger. Think about that for a second. That's actually pretty bloody good. That's actually noteworthy. So, and consider this. You're a Scion player. You're going to be the offensive arm of your force is going to be It's going to be Dakka Prime charging forward, Valkyrie drop force Scions, and deep striking plasma galore. Okay, that's what's going to be a lot of the offensive arm. But consider this. You don't want to be wasting points by having to defend objectives in your home territory with units which aren't designed to do it. A Dakka Prime isn't designed to defend. A Plasma Squad isn't designed to defend. It's designed to attack. If you take 3 of these Punchy Primes, put a couple of, put a few, maybe 3, 4 hotshot volley gun squads in there, and you've got yourself a little fire base. And then you could even throw things in like, you could throw in Yarick, for example, and suddenly everyone's got reroll 1s to hit. No orders required, because everyone's got reroll 1s to hit, thanks to Yarick. Suddenly you're starting to get a real punchy little fire base that can do significant damage to medium and light armor. And every wound you sneak through, guys, it's like 2 damage. And as we've been talking about, the reason this is coming into my brain, because some of you will be saying, oh, well, you'd never take that in a competitive setting. Why wouldn't you take a Lehman Russ? Well, put it this way, my young friend, my young Padawan. Lehman Russes are obvious choices. They are obvious targets as well. Okay? Punchy Primes are not. They're less obvious. They can be hidden away easier. But consider this. Against a Custody, or anything these days which has a 4+ invulnerable save spam, like a Talos Bikers, Dakka Talos, still very, very competitive. Custodes on bikes, Dawn Eagle jet bikes, still very competitive. They've all got 4++ saves. A battle cannon is just as good. A Taurox battle cannon is just as good as a regular battle cannon versus them. You don't need the extra AP, especially against Talos. And you do the same amount of damage. Consider that. But the Dakka Prime, Punchy Prime, is about 40 points cheaper. Interesting. Let me know what you guys think. Am I mad? Or am I on something here? Punchy Primes could be making a comeback in the new meta, which is the 4++, the 4+ invulnerable save meta. Let me know what you think. Put your comments down below. Thank you for listening. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.